for today's guest. David Bach is #1 New York Times bestseller and one of the most recognizable names in personal finance. Today, he's here to discuss his new book, The Latte Factor, which teaches us that you don't have to be rich to live rich. Everyone, please give a warm Bill Brunch welcome to David Bach.
Okay, so good to be here, you guys. Thank you. Hi, nice to see you.
Do you want a biscuit?
Hello, everyone. Woo! You know what? I do. I want what's here, but I'm not going to eat one.
We have to wait till after.
It's free.
You guys, also, there's a bar in the green room. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, there is.
I tweeted about it before I came out here.
Oh,
We have a
good.
little gin every morning, just a touch.
Just a touch.
I hope you tag
I'll have
us.
that after.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. Tell us a little about your book, The Latte Factor, and sort of your inspiration behind writing it.
Yeah, well, so this is my 13th book.
Wow.
And
Wow.
my first book was for women. It was Smart Women Finish Rich. And we've got 7 million books out. But most people won't read a financial book.
Right.
And most people need it.
Yeah.
So what I really came to realization was, like, there's an entire generation of young people that need to learn how to save and invest. And it's, you know, there's 100 million millennials in Generation Y and Generation Z. It's actually the biggest now demographic in our country. Right. And yet you're coming out of school with bigger student loans than ever before, credit card debt bigger than it's ever been. And so a lot of young people are actually kind of like depressed about this. And I wanted to do something about it. So what I decided I would do is I'd write a small little book that you could read in an hour. Literally, as a teenager on up, that would teach you the major lessons that you need to know about money. They're super simple, that should have been taught in school. Everything in this little book should have been taught in school, but my 15-year-old has read this book, and he's all motivated now. And so I know that this is a book that can really empower young people to realize that you're richer than you think, you've got more courage than you know, and small amounts of money can change your life, which is where the latte factor comes in.
Yes, and tell us about the plot line, the story of Zoe and Henry.
Yeah, so Zoe Daniels is a 27-year-old millennial living in Brooklyn. She takes the subway every day to work. She works in the Freedom Tower, and she's been here for 6 years. And like many millennials, she came to New York for a dream. And after 6 years of working and making more and more money, she's still living paycheck to paycheck. So one day she comes through the Oculus, and she sees this LCD screen that says, if you don't know where you're going, you might not like where you end up. And she takes the escalator up to the top where she comes out, which is the 9/11 memorial.
Right.
And for the first time in 6 years, she takes in the memorial because she's always rushed to work. And she asks herself, where's she going with her life? And then she walks into her office totally depressed, has lunch with her boss, who's Barbara, and tells Barbara, I can't afford anything. And Barbara, later you'll find out, don't want to give the whole story away, but you find out that Barbara's actually like the millionaire next door, but she's the millionaire down the hallway. And she sends Zoe to mentors. And one of her mentors is Henry, who works at a coffee shop. And Henry starts to teach her these life lessons that $5 a day, if she just start investing it, and she's at a coffee shop. If you didn't spend your money on the latte and you invested it, you could be a millionaire. And that little lesson starts to change her whole life.
Can Barbara just give her some money, though?
Then she wouldn't learn a lesson.
That's
and the book would end on page 15.
That's exactly right.
And can you go into the latte factor and break it down for us?
Yeah, so the #1 reason people don't invest, like specifically like don't use their 401k plans, which is the #1 thing you need to do when you get a job. The reason people don't do it is because they say, I can't afford to. So what the latte factor is actually not about giving up your coffee. It's a metaphor. You can keep drinking all your coffee, people, because you know, but it's about like, what do you spend money on every day? Is it coffee? Is it bottled water? Is it cigarettes? Is it eating out lunch? Like here in New York, nothing's $5, right? You go out to lunch and it's $15 or more. And so what is something that you can do, that you can change, that you can give up to get up? Because if you can find $10 a day and you invest it in your 401k plan, which is $300 a month, you can be a multi-millionaire by the time you reach retirement. We've got this amazing chart that we'll show here in a second that just shows this, but it's the miracle of compound interest. The key is when you start young, it's super easy. Like my 9-year-old was telling me yesterday, Dad, I told my teacher, Patrick, he needs to read your book because if he starts at 25, he can be worth $1.9 million by the time he reaches retirement. But then I told him, Dad, if he waits till 35, it'll only be worth $689,000. This is my 9-year-old.
Wow, yeah, I was pretending to be a wizard at times. So the fact that he knows about money, I'm
Well, it's because actually he found out his 15-year-old brother read the book, and he took it, and he's read half of it.
wow.
And he turned to the back of the book, looked at the chart, and memorized it, basically, and he thinks his teacher's 25. His teacher's like 40. So
Teacher's screwed.
So he
Teacher's like, oh.
so he had me sign the book for his teacher. But these are the things that we should teach in school.
Right.
So that people, because when you know better, you can do better financially. I learned about money really young because my grandmother helped me buy my first stock at age 7. And I went to my first investment class at 9 because my dad was teaching it. So I learned all this stuff at a young age. And the truth is we can teach everyone how to do this. It's not hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And can you teach us about the importance of a side hustle and what would you recommend?
A side hustle.
Yeah.
So a lot of young people, well, actually everybody, quite frankly,
Yeah.
wants to not retire at 65. A lot of people want to retire early. There's this whole thing called the FIRE movement right now, which I love, which is financial independence, retire early. So the point of a side hustle, if you can figure out a way to make an extra $50 a day, or even just $25 a day, but let's use 50, because $50 a day in a side hustle, invested for 20 years at 10%, is $1 million. So a lot of people today in their 20s are like, what can I do to make some extra money, not spend it, and invest it to get free faster? And there's an entire group of people right now obsessed with spending less money, making more, to get free faster. And by the way, a lot of people hate this. They're jealous. They're jealous of these people that are doing that because most people don't get free at 40. And yet you can get yourself on a track to get free at 40. So I think a lot of people will actually end up reading the Latte Factor and go on this fast track to get there quicker. Because when you look at the numbers, it's all about math.
Right.
And I'm a person who knows like nothing about this. So when you're talking, I'm like, okay, numbers, don't get intimidated. And there's so much talk about investing, but I even have friends who've invested and they invest in things and it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So like, where would you send someone like me who knows zero about learning how to invest my money, my little dollars?
So here's what I would say to you, because here's what so many young people are doing. They're rushing off and doing things like Bitcoin or cryptocurrency that they know nothing about. That's not even going nowhere. It's going to go away. What you should be doing, because I don't know how, if you guys, are you guys employees here?
Yeah, we're contractors.
You should, well, as an employee, you would be using a 401k plan. So if you've got a 401k plan, literally where you start, here's a magic formula for all of you. Because you're so young, you want to be rich.
Thanks.
I'm
actually like older than your son's teacher, but I'm moisturized.
Hardly. It's 1 hour a day of your income. The magic formula to being financially secure for life is you save 1 hour a day of your income. So whatever you earn from, and this is what Zoe learns in the book, you go to work from 9 to 5, you keep the hour from 9 to 10. So if you make $15 an hour, you have to pay yourself first $15 an hour. If you make $25 an hour, you pay yourself first $25 an hour. If you're an independent contractor, which means you're basically self-employed, you go open up a self-employed retirement account. Right. And you take at least 10% off the top, and you put it inside a SEP IRA account. When you do that, you don't pay taxes. It's totally tax deductible. It grows tax-free. That's how you build real wealth. Again, Zoe learns all these lessons in the book. And the way you get that money to grow, you put it in you start with an S&P 500 fund. You put it in the market. And we've got like a little chart in the back of the book that shows rates of return going back to 1926. The stock market has averaged over 10% annually since 1926. Cheapest thing you can do is start with an index fund. And if you don't want to take risk and be in the stock market, you can put it in a boring, balanced mutual fund. And that'll make 7-8% annually. Yeah. Now, none of those rates are guaranteed, but that's what they've done over the last 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Got it.
You'll be kicking off your book launch show in New York at the Oculus in the World Trade Center, which clearly is very significant to the book. It's on May 9th, on tomorrow, right?
It's on May 9th, and anybody who's here in New York, I am giving away, get ready for this, over $10,000 worth of books.
Whoa.
I bought 500 books. I'm giving them away starting at noon, so you've got to get there early, and I'm going to be signing them.
That's great.
So just a way to give back to our community. Thank you.
That's great, because hopefully young people, won't have the money to spend whatever money in the book. You get this for free. You get this advice. Yeah,
and then for those of you who do have the money, come check us out at thelattefactor.com and go get the book in stores because it's out officially as of yesterday.
And we do have some charts that you brought along to kind of help visually explain what you've been talking about.
Awesome.
The first one is about seeing the difference.
Okay, so this chart is the first chart you see in the back of the book. This is the chart that changed my life, and I know it's hard for you guys to see this, but if you put $2,000 a year into an IRA account, starting at the age of 19, and you just did this until the age of 26, so you never put another dollar away. This is for anybody who's young. What this shows you is that by the time you reach 65 at a 10% rate of return, you'd have over $1 million. Now, the next person, we'll call her, it's Kim. Kim doesn't start at 19, she starts at 27. She puts $2,000 a year away every single year until the age of 65. She's got over $800,000. The amazing thing about this chart is what you realize, the second person does very well, but never catches the first person because they started young. Again, my 15-year-old son, Jack, looked at this chart and went, Dad, I'm 15. How do I get one of these accounts? If I start at 15, I'm going to have probably $2 million, right? I'm like, exactly. So that's just, this chart, I got this chart at 26. I worked in the World Trade Center, and I was a financial advisor, and they showed us this chart, and they said, this is how you become financially free. And I did this myself. I opened up an IRA account, then I used my 401k plan, then I used my SEP IRA. That's the miracle of compound interest. Show that chart to any young person. Now, the next chart we're going to show you
It's also about starting early.
is also about starting early. This is probably the simplest chart I could share with anybody that's the most life-changing. This is $10 a day, $300 a month. So again, Latte factor, $10 a day, $300 a month. Start at 25, 10% rate of return. You've got $1.9 million by the time you retire. Now, if you just wait 10 more years, which is what most people do, most people don't start saving until 35, if they save at 35. Same a dollar amount, now you've only got $684,000. Wait until you're 45, now it's $230. Wait until you're 55, it's super depressing, it's $62,000.
Yeah, my mom just asked me about that. She's 50.
So you know, the lesson here is, number one, you want to start early. Like, this is a show for young people. Here's the number one thing that anybody who's 40 or over would say to you if you were walking down the street right now and you asked them one question: what's your biggest financial regret? They would tell you they wish they had started saving and investing when they were young.
Yeah.
Because here's what happens, and you don't believe it when you're 20. You go like this, and you're 50. And my mom's here. My mom's here right in the front, and you go like this, and then you're 70. Right? And the thing is,
She looks great.
What?
Yeah, she needs to write a book.
77! Give Bobby Bach a round of applause, because my mom, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my mom. I used to live in San Francisco, and I told my mom I wanted to come to New York and teach millions of people about money. I had a completely secure career at Morgan Stanley, and she said to me, son, spread your wings and fly. And she came all the way out here just to see me do this show.
I love moms.
I love you, Mom. So kids, don't wait. That's the bottom line. Don't wait. Get started. And by the way, if you've waited, it's still not too late, because I get that question too. And there are stories in the Latte Factor where the mentor goes, "Look, it's never too late."
Yeah.
But the beauty of the Latte Factor is simplicity. And here's the thing: there's a lot of people these days that are like hating on the Latte Factor, and I just gotta be totally blank and totally candid with everybody. I'm not trying to take your frickin' coffee away, but it's a great example, because you know what? There's 30,000 Starbucks alone. There are more coffee shops now than banks here. And we're
Maybe
spending.
we should invest in that.
You should. Actually, Zoe learns that lesson in the book. She goes to Starbucks, and her mentor says, you know what? If you're not going to give up the coffee, then buy the stock. And tells her literally, like, if you had bought Starbucks stock when they went public with $1,000, you'd have over $250,000. Wow. So your point is exactly right. Invest in what you're using if you don't want to give it up.
Exactly. David, thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me.